We are identifying raw talent and then building those people up rather than signing up established people in the industry. Typically, what happens in a movie that when a director starts this conceptualizing a film, it's essential in a Bollywood film that you start thinking of music being integrated either as a standalone piece of entertainment or to take the narrative ahead. Music in India is very distinct from the way music is developed in the business of music than it's developed from other parts of the world. I often joke this, I'm going to be turning 52 this year, and I don't think as a 52-year-old man I have any business deciding what song is going to work with the 20 plus generation. They are the biggest customers and listeners of new music.
My guest today on the Sensei Kujaku Show is Vikram Mehra, Managing Director of Saregama India. Vikram took over the role of Managing Director in 2014. Over his tenure, the company has grown revenue and profitability several times over, which growth is reflected in the share price of Saregama, which has grown over 20-fold over this 8.5-year period. Saregama has evolved over the decades from a music-focused enterprise into a larger content and entertainment company. Today, the company is a major player in movies and television in addition to music. Interestingly, nearly 50% of all music ever recorded in India is owned by Saregama, making the company not only a key player in the music industry today, but a window into the history and evolution of music and film in India. I sat down with Vikram to understand the business of Saregama and how the company is evolving and adapting to an ever-changing entertainment landscape. As always, nothing in this video or any content posted on this channel is either a recommendation to or not to buy, sell or hold any security. Hi Vikram, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the Sensei Kujaku Show.
Entirely my pleasure.
Whenever someone talks about a company like Saregama, it's easy to get lost in the glamour of the music business and films, anything of Bollywood and musicians. But what people often forget is that there is a very large business and industry behind all that, driving all this and enabling it. So I want to start by understanding the music business in India, and specifically in the context of music of films. Could you explain the basic model that goes into the music that we hear of a film? Who owns it? How does all of that work? Who develops it?
Okay, first let me clarify, behind every glamorous thing, especially in the world of entertainment, there's a lot of nitty-gritty that goes in, which is as boring as building constructing a building. Our industry is not different. Behind the glamour, there's a lot of hard work that goes in. You're asking about music. Music in India is very distinct from the way music is developed in the business of music than it is developed from other parts of the world. In other parts, primarily music is driven by individual artists. You work on discovering your talent, you invest in that talent starts releasing the songs become big, but the songs are always connected to the person who has sung it or written it or composed it. In India, traditionally from the time a movie started, somehow music started becoming an integral part of the films. And the music that was being heard even in 50s and 60s and 70s in our country was not an artist-driven music. You still had the likes of an R.D. Burman or a Lakshmikant Pyarelal or Anand Bakshi Saab or a Kishore Saab or a Rafi singing the song. Artists were there, but people typically connected the song not to that artist but to a Shammi Kapoor or a Raj Kapoor or Amitabh Bachchan on whom the song was picturized. And that way we are quite different. If you ask an average Joe on the street and ask them a name of a song, higher probability they will tell you whom is it picturized on than the person who sang the song. Pity, but that's a reality that we have in this market. We as company do a lot of work to ensure right now that the artist who's behind the song also gets enough limelight. But I can't run away from the fact that people connected with the actor or the actress on whom the song is picturized. Typically what happens in a movie, that when a director starts this conceptualizing a film, it's essential in a Bollywood film that you start thinking of music being integrated either as a standalone piece of entertainment or to take the narrative ahead. Lot is said, if you remember Andhi film, where a lot is said right now between the two characters, including Sanjeev Kumar's frustration at times, only through the lyrics of the song. Gulzar Saab, I think, has said more with the lyrics of the song and the eyes of the protagonist than the actual dialogue that are going on. So it used to take the story ahead. Director conceptualizes that way. Then they reach out to the composer that this is the kind of music I want. Work with the lyricist who pens actual lyrics to it right now and then gets a singer to sing that song. When all the three things have come together and the final audio is ready, it is then picturized on an actor or an actress who may lip sync it or they may have the music running in the background. Now this is owned by the film producer, right, the person who has funded the film. They approach music labels like ours and say that are we interested in buying out the stand-alone monetization rights of that particular song. The song still can be played as part of the film. That right is retained by the film producer. But the individually monetization rights, that means audio on a standalone basis or the music video on a standalone basis gets sold to the music label.
Right.
And that's the business that we are in.
So just to simplify it, if I hear a song on the radio that is owned by some company like yours, but the right to play it in the theater as part of a larger movie is retained by
the producer, who may sell that right to some other person who ends up buying the rights of the entire film. So that's a different right. That right never gets transferred across to the music label. We have the right only to the original sound recording, lyrics of the song, the tune that goes out there in the song, and the music video that comes along with it. Exploitation of that on a standalone basis is sitting there with us, which also means these millions of user-generated content that you see on apps like YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or YD Shorts, all of those rights actually belong to us. Because a user is somewhere exploiting either the lyrics of the song or the basic composition which is there, part of the song, rights of which are owned by the music label.
Right. So you brought up YouTube and digital platforms like that. And it's interesting the relationship that your industry has had with technology. From say the late 90s till maybe say 2010 or so, it was an enemy more than a friend in many ways. It enabled piracy and in many ways set back companies like yours in terms of their ability to invest in music, simply because the payoff wasn't there, because people were more interested in, stealing the music as such rather than, purchasing it. But in a funny way, technology was also the solution, because what happened is through platforms like YouTube, Spotify, and so on, it in many ways crushed a lot of the piracy that took place simply because there was no need to do it. It was available for free anyway. So I want to understand how you think about the evolution of your business in terms of technology and whether today you see technology as a boon or a bane.
No, I couldn't have explained it better. Okay, you've done my job here. But yes, technology was the one right now that destroyed the inherent value of song for a brief span of time. It was primarily because in the browser world through which we people used to consume content in the late 90s and the early part of 2010, in the browser world, often the pirating server used to be based in countries where we had no control. So if you were allowing infringed song to be downloaded from your website, the only option we had was to go to a court, get a stay order against that link being supported by an ISP, so that people can't go to that link. But overnight, the pirates used to change the name of that link and a new link used to get created. It was an uphill battle. I think the watershed moment is when more people started consuming content through apps rather than the browser. As smartphones became more and more prevalent, I think I'll count 2014, 2015 as that moment where more and more people like us said, we will not go to a laptops and consume music or films. We are very happy watching audio or video and consuming audio on a mobile phone. In an app world, every app has to get hosted either on an Android platform right now, which is Google platform, or an Apple platform. And both these platforms are very, very conscious of their responsibility that they will not allow pirated content to run there. So often when we get an app which is infringing our content, has not taken a license from our side, we write to these people and they're very helpful in pulling down those apps. So that's what has allowed a lot, as a stick that has come out to get pirates to stop putting their content. I think customer has also changed. They're much more comfortable now consuming content on demand, all original recordings that you're talking about right now. Earlier days, I remember there used to be this infringing site called songs.pk. A lot of people have downloaded content from there, but when you are downloading content, you have no clue whether it's your original sound recording or is it a recreation done by someone. Now when you go out there to a Spotify or to a YouTube, but right now I think Spotify is a better example, or an Apple or an Airtel Wink, you know for sure that if you want to listen to Tere Vaste from Zara Hatke Zara Bachke, you will always end up getting the original recording. And people like that part, that there's a guarantee of quality which is coming in. They know it's your original recording and it's available at the press of a button. So another part, technology is actually helping a lot the catalog owners like us. I often give this example. When I was, I think must have been 14 or 15, growing up in Lucknow, I got exposed to Raj Kapoor music. See, I'm calling Raj Kapoor music and not Mukesh. I'm as guilty here. And I was listening to a lot of his songs because my dad was into it and mom used to keep radio on all day. And this entire idea of the romance that was there between, at that time, on-screen romance between Raj Kapoor and Nargis was very fascinating, and at a young impressionable age I was also completely blown by that. And I said, okay, I want to pick up a cassette of a movie called Barsat, because the songs of that I found very, very interesting. I must have gone to at least 23 different music shops in Lucknow to buy a cassette, and this is will be year 84, 8 to 86 sometime. I could not find Barsat anywhere and I could not buy it. And I was very, very disappointed, because that's all I wanted to do, to pick up Barsat cassette. Because it was so difficult for a music shop to keep these cassettes or slow moving cassettes or movies which are 30, 40-year-old at that time. Today, I can get any song. I can get an old Simon and Garfunkel song right now by pressing a button on Spotify and the music is available. Songs, right, it's possible that RK Studios may have also forgotten about. But if I want to listen to that song, it's available in some app or other because Saregama would have provided it. Catalog companies have got a huge kicker because Kurchi technology, because songs are now available at the press of a button. And tech companies are spending tons of money on building the infrastructure to ensure right now that songs are genuinely available. It shouldn't happen right now, then we are pressing the button and there's a long queuing up that's happening.
Yeah. So it's interesting you're talking about the role that platforms like Spotify and YouTube have played. In many ways, they've been incredibly useful for companies like yours because they've driven down the customer acquisition cost and in some ways subsidized it for a company like yours, because today it's incumbent on, say, YouTube or Spotify to attract the customers, and then they want someone like you who can provide the content that customers would be interested in, and therefore they sort of bring the two of you together. So it's really interesting to hear about that. But I
remember right now is while they're getting the customers, we are getting all the content by spending the big dollars there. They are not taking the risk of the content, because there's no guarantee when you pick up content, whether film music or non-film music, whether it's going to work. Nobody can go back and give a guarantee whether the song is going to work or not. We are doing the heavy lifting by paying tons of money up front, while they are doing the heavy lifting by getting the customer.
Right. So that's interesting that you bring that up. Do you think you are very good, or how would you judge yourself on your ability that when you first hear a song, whether it's going to be a hit, it's a disaster, or somewhere in between?
You know, I often joke this. I'm going to be turning 52 this year, and I don't think as a 52-year-old man I have any business deciding what song is going to work with the 20-plus generation. They are the biggest customers and listeners of new music. So we took this call around 6-7 years ago that we will stop the process of centralization of decisions on which song to buy or not. We have broken into two parts. We have firstly decentralized it. So none of the decisions get taken by me about what song should we go back and pick up. In fact, it does not even get taken by the head of music. It's taken basis feedback from various kids in the company who are all under the age of 30 from various departments. So it's not their day-to-day role. But every time we are listening to a new album or a new song, we expose it to them. And they are free to go and express their opinion because they don't report into the music head. It may be a legal person or an admin person. Second, we have invested very heavily on data analytics to now do predictive AI. So based on the performance of every song released in India over the last 44 months, everything is part of my database, along with who sang, composed, wrote, music director, the choreographer, actor, actress, mood, everything is sitting in there. And the performance on various digital platforms which are public in nature, where we can crawl and get the data on a daily basis. All that is married together to now help us create predictive models. So if you're coming to me and saying these are my artists which are involved, my model can go back and throw a number which tells us what is the probability of success here. Combine that with the younger team listening to the music, and we then have a formula where the success rate is far higher than what the industry has. And actually you can go back and see it with the performance that we people are doing. We are in the short span of picking up new content. We have been picking up new content for 2.5 years now in an aggressive fashion. We're already number one in Gujarati, Bhojpuri, Telugu, Malayalam. Our range of Hindi movies have just started coming out. Our first movie was Zara Hatke Zara Bachke. Already on Spotify, number 1 and number 2 songs on the all India level are these 2 songs. So which doesn't happen that often, that the first Hindi movie that you take right now, you end up hitting gold. But I think I owe it a lot to our analytical ability.
Yeah. There's this question I've actually wondered whether it's true or not. There's this theory that with the advent of platforms like Spotify, it fundamentally changed what the musician or whoever it is that's involved in making the song can actually do with a song. The reason being that the artist gets paid on a platform like Spotify if the song is played for at least, I think it's 30 seconds or something like that. So the trick is the first 30 seconds has to grab the audience's attention. So it has to be a quote unquote banger from the second it starts. Whereas if you see songs from like the 70s or something like that, you could go a minute without, you would still not sure if the song is started or not. You know, there's just some background music and a minute, 2 minutes into it, the words actually start. Excuse me. So I just want to get your sense of, do you think that is true, what the sort of example that I gave?
No, your example is true, but don't blame it on the platforms. Have you seen an 18-year-old kid, make him or her sit in front of you, play something where nothing is happening for the first 30 seconds? You're going to lose them completely. They will be stuck on their mobile phones. As a generation, we people we have a very short span of attention now. Unless you engage them, I like to believe me also part of that generation, but unless you engage us constantly and give us a high, you lose us. So anybody who's creating content in audio or video space has to keep this in mind. That please constantly engage us. Now that engagement can be in terms of a very amazing composition which is coming, and the vocals may come at a later juncture, they still work. There are enough examples right now where vocals come at a later stage. Some places vocals come in that much faster, but you can't expect people in today's generation to just sit back and say, okay, we will wait for the real thing to happen after a few minutes.
Right.
People want immediate, instant gratification.
Right. So we've spoken a lot about the music business, but I think what people sometimes don't realize is that Saregama is now much more than just a music-focused company. It has, over time, morphed into, obviously music is still a very large component, but it's involved heavily in movies, TV, publications, in fact. I want to get your sense of what do you think, why do you think it was important that Saregama became a larger content company rather than just a music company?
So, yes, you're right. We consider ourselves to be a content IP company, and our content definition is entertainment primarily. We are not a platform, we are not a services company, but within content IP, we believe right now that narrowing it only to music is a very short or a very tight way of looking at the business that we are in. We are in the business of being the fuel to every entertainment-based platform that is there in the country and abroad. When you're fueling something, you cannot say I'm only into the audio part of it and not into the video part of it, because the definition is now morphing into each other. On an Instagram, when I'm going and scrolling up content, there is audio as important as video, and video is as important as audio. Hence, we took a call that even in the audio side, people thought audio only means music. We are saying we're in the business of audio and video IP. That audio can be music and audio can be podcast or any other form that may go back and happen. In fact, one of the biggest selling product for us is Bhagavad Gita in Hindi and Bhagavad Gita in English, the full narration. Now, I don't know where do I fit in. It's not conventional music, neither is it podcast. It's somewhere in between, and there's a large market sitting for that too. And on video, we were into 22 minutes TV serials, we moved into 120-minute films, we're now also looking at 45-minute web series, and we may be open to even a 1 or 2 minute video content. Wherever we can grab customers' attention, we want to be there. One other point I want to clarify, yes, we own publication business at one time, but that's a business which is getting, there's an entity which is getting demerged out of Saregama, publication business moves out along with that.
So just again talking about the visual aspect as well, what is your philosophy on developing content in that space? What do you think has changed in recent years? Obviously everyone talks about, Netflix and platforms like that, and how it's allowed a lot of actors and content that otherwise wouldn't have been made. A lot of it is made now. A lot of actors who otherwise didn't get jobs are getting jobs now, and a lot of really interesting and unusual content is coming out. How do you think the Indian consumer of video content has evolved in, say, the last decade or so? And where do you see that moving?
The great part about Indian content is that we don't any longer look at Indian audience alone as the recipient for Indian content. In the world of Netflix, where many of us have seen enough amount of Spanish content, right, and Korean content, and Turkish content, and feeling very good and happy about it. At times, not even having having only English subtitles connected to it. We have realized that if the content is good, there's a larger market which opens up for you. The big difference that has happened over the last 5 to 10 years, earlier it was only star-led content that used to do very, very well. Today, if you have a good story, you have a higher probability of success, even with less known stars, than you have a big budget star-led movie which has got no story in it. So somewhere writer who should have always got his credit right from the word go is finally getting his or her credit. Something similar is happening on the music side too. There was a phase in Indian music where composition had started taking over completely on the lyrics part, and lyrics were started becoming a little more nonsensical. Doesn't matter if people were consuming that's what matters. Today, once again, if you check out the kind of work which, like Amitabh Bhattacharya is a very good example, the kind of lyrics he brings in, it is sheer poetry. They are simple, they're not esoteric, but they make a lot of sense to the end customer. Similar stuff on the movie front. People who write good, compelling stories, the stories can be something I can relate to, or stories can be something I can aspire towards. Both kind of things are working.
Yeah.
But if you do that, you have a chance of a hit or a success on the cards.
Yeah, and do you think that India could export content the way, say, K-pop or Korean, it's not just music actually, it's even Korean dramas are incredibly popular all over the world. So do you think there is scope for us to do that?
I'll tell you, yes. My immediate answer is yes. But our biggest strength is our biggest weakness also. When you have 1.4 billion people to take care of in your own country, and a large population NRI sitting outside and also consuming our content, it's so tempting for us because you have a market sitting in to first to cater to them. Remember, 1 in 7, 1 in 8 people in the world right now are people who speak our language. Why not cater to them? That's the tempting part. But are we capable of creating content? I think RRR success is a good enough indicator. We are as a country capable of creating content which goes outside India too. Can we beat people right now on the post-production heavy things? Maybe we can't. But what we can definitely beat a lot of people, other markets is of good storytelling. Storytelling where we expose people outside India to inherent Indian culture and stories that are seated to the Indian culture. Fluff may not work.
Yeah, and so I want to again come back to something I spoke about earlier, which was asking about hits and misses. Could you explain from a financial standpoint, what is the delta between a hit, and this could be whether it's music or movies, TVs, whatever, but what is the difference between a hit and, say, even an average, whatever, song, movie, whatever the case may be?
The deltas are not that big in movies, right? Especially if you are, the deltas are massive in movies only if you're doing very big star-led theatrical releases. Then a hit can and Pathan is a very good example, right?
Yeah.
Or an RRR is a great example, Pushpa is a great example. They can really hit the ball out of the park. But those are theatrical releases with big star cast involved in it. If you are looking at a story-led stuff, then the deltas between an average movie and a great movie, the delta is obviously there.
Yeah.
It's not as dramatic as, say, in a song world, wherein a song that has not worked versus a song that has worked, that the deltas can be massive.
Yeah.
So when we people, and we understand it, especially in film music, when you pick up an album, you're getting 4 or 5 songs. 2 of those songs may do extremely well, remaining 2 or 3 can be average. But you have to look at the entire thing at the album level rather than at a song level, right? So it averages out. When we evaluate each of the teams, and I'm also evaluated, we are evaluated on the block of content bought during a financial year, and how has that performed. And that's how we track. So though we report to the stock markets typically decades ki performance, we internally track 1970 ka content differently from 71 to 72 to 73, all the way to 2010, 11, 12, 13. Understanding every year what kind of content did we pick up and how are they still performing.
Yeah, I just want to for a second go back to the music business. If you think of it, and if you just think of content generally as what is the bang for the buck that you're getting in terms of what the customer is paying. If, let's say, you compare a Spotify subscription to, say, a Netflix subscription or something like that. If you think of it in terms of how much more you can get when you're listening to music or something that is purely audio versus something that's audio visual, for the simple reason that if it's audio visual, that can be the only thing I'm doing, right? If I'm watching a show on Netflix, my entire concentration has to be on that. Whereas if I'm listening to a song on Spotify, I could be cooking, driving to work, whatever it is. So you can consume a lot more of it in a given day. My question is that do you think that difference in sort of bang for the buck that you get in a purely audio-based format renders that business far more lucrative than, say, audiovisual content or businesses?
I think both have got to play. If I ask you right now, can we survive without food or water, and which is more essential to you? Both the things are needed right now for the body. In a similar world, we want at an hour or 2 hours at times at home, where we want to be submerged into an alternate world which films or series ends up giving you. Right? You switch off from the real life and you are into this make-believe life which entertains you fully. Well, music is a very different way. Music you consume, as you rightly said, as something which is happening in the background while you're doing other pieces of work too. So the value one attaches to each of these 2 things is different, and you need both in your life.
Yeah.
So from the good old days, people used to go and watch movies also, used to buy LPs also at the same time. Same thing happened right now with people taking DVDs of movies or VHS of movies at the same time buying cassettes of songs. I don't think anything has changed now also.
Yeah. I in fact, it's interesting. It brings me to what I think is one of the most interesting consumer products that has come out in recent times. And I'm not saying specifically your industry, I'm saying just if you think of anything that someone could walk into a store or order online, which is Carvaan, which is, for the people who don't know, it's basically a box with a bunch of songs loaded on. And I see it as technology for people who hate technology, which is, I think of like, a grandmother who's not going to be in a position to really use technology, can just press a button on a box and listen to songs that she's listened to her whole life. Can you explain to me how the company came up with Carvaan? What was the thought process? And what do you think has enabled its success?
One part I need to clarify to you, the biggest market for Carvaan actually is 50 plus generation and not the 70 plus generation. Carvaan is based on this very strong belief that the core team at Saregama has. Innovation is about anthropology and not technology. People often can think technology is what results into innovation. You need to understand your customer far better, and technology becomes a means to deliver what your customer wants. And Carvaan is a straight product or a living example that anthropology trumps over technology. 2015-16, we people were doing a lot of consumer research to find out that why did the consumption of Saregama older catalog, right? This is the music of 60s, 70s, 80s, was not so big on the digital platforms. I had just come on board and we were investigating this. having had my entire career in consumer research, I'm a big believer of qualitative, not quantitative, qualitative research. So we did this 23 city study. I went for a lot of those groups. And we realized that there was a lot of fear amongst the 40 plus generation living in the mid and small sized towns. I was in my 40s at that time and I thought, what kind of a loser people why are they scared of pressing a button? Now I'm in my 50s, I'm also realizing I'm also going through the same phase in life. After an age, your fear of anything new starts coming up. You're very comfortable with whatever you already know. Rather than venturing into something else, you say, I'm okay with whatever I know, why should I venture in something else? So we were realizing that though there were streaming platforms, there was not that much of consumption happening of our content. When we asked them, they said, literal translation was right now, इसमें ये बटन हाथ दबाएं तो कुछ दब जाएगा तो कुछ खर्चा तो नहीं हो जाएगा. अरे वो मेरा बेटा बेटी जब आएंगे ना तो वो साइड लोड कर देंगे मेरे फ़ोन के ऊपर, मैं वही सुनती हूँ. For me, actually the game changer was, I was in Kanpur and there was a focus group that was happening. And this lady, who must have been 60s, but somehow she still called me beta. I had more hair at that time. कि बेटा हमारा ज़माना बहुत अच्छा था. वो सुबह से मैं रेडियो ऑन कर देती थी. सुबह उठते भी उसी के साथ थे. उनकी चाय भी उसके साथ होती थी. शाम को जब वो लौट कर आते थे तो भी चाय उन्हीं के साथ होती थी. बस इवनिंग में टीवी के समय हम बंद क्या करते थे हवा महल देखने के बाद. इट वॉज एज इफ माई मदर वॉज कमिंग आउट देयर एंड टेलिंग मी दिस बिकॉज दिस इज हाउ आई हैव ग्रोन अप. And we realized that in our fascination, in our run for technology, because we are so comfortable with technology, we somehow started believing that everybody wants technology. And these guys were saying, no, we need simplicity. Somebody else now, this is the people right now who are 50 plus in larger towns, they said, every day when I'm in my office, as the Bombay people, I make a choice. I have to take decisions everywhere. Even which train to take, I have to make choice. Why are you forcing me to do this when I want to listen to music, that you want to ask me which song to play next? Whether I should skip ads, not skip ads, please can I just listen to plain music in the background? And we realize that maybe we are seeing it all wrong. Maybe we need to give them a more simplistic product where at the touch of a button they can listen to music and forget everything else. You'll be surprised, my biggest resistance was my own team. Because they were young kids in the company, and Carvaan has been fully designed by in-house team. We've not taken any external help right now in the designing of Carvaan, including the tech part. They are looking at bright 20-year-olds, they're all saying, let's put touchscreen and all that part. So the initial buttons that were there on Carvaan, the prototype that was built had touch. So we thought that's a cool thing, because everybody thought, how can we not have touch in 2016-17? We went to the customers, there was a complete pushback. People said we want the tactile feel, the way old light switches used to be, which tells us whether press hua ya press nahi hua. We turned it from a touch button to a more expensive push button. And because in our mind we were very clear, let's not pretend that a 20-year-old is ever going to listen to Carvaan. They will not. We were clear about our positioning. It is for the 40 plus generation that values convenience over control. And that's a mantra of this product. Everything has been designed keeping that in mind. One of the big things that generation told us, that they loved, रेडियो पे वो हुआ करता था, अगली चिट्ठी यहाँ सर आई है, इन्होंने इस गाने की डिमांड करी है. ये बड़ा कॉमन हुआ करता था उधर, गाने की मांग करी जाती थी. तो one had no idea which songs are going to come next. People miss that serendipity. And now for us, we want to control what next song to hear next. Before going to the gym, I create my playlist and I'm very clear what I want. But many of the people don't. Yeah. They like the fact suddenly they are surprised by a song they've not heard for last 20 years. So for me also, when I'm going to the gym now, it's controlled, but when I'm sitting at home and me and my wife are having a drink, it's Carvaan. Because we have no control which song is going to come next, and the time just surprises us. And that's the success of Carvaan.
Yeah, and it's interesting, that brings up another interesting point with content. The holy grail for, or rather the best example of a content company arguably is Disney. And a key strength that they had, especially with the animated movies, was every time a baby is born, there's another person who can discover, Lion King or Little Mermaid or whatever it is. As a result of things like Carvaan or just generally technology that has come up in recent years, is that any company with a large catalog of 20, 30, 40, 50 years or even longer has the advantage that people who already know it can listen to it, but every day there's another guy who can discover music.
See, that's the amazing story of Carvaan that I haven't spoken enough. As part of my data analytics team, this is I think 6-8 months old story, they came back to me with this very amazing insight that there's a very high correlation between the growth rates of our songs on digital platforms and that song's availability on Carvaan. Now, when I say Hindi Carvaan got 5,000 songs, they are not our top 5,000 songs. They are 5,000 of our 23,000 songs that are there in Hindi. We have not put the top 5,000 in that. There are a lot of songs right now which are going from under 20,000 ranking also. And they were done for various reasons. So, there is no reason why a 21,036 level rank song of Hindi be growing at a rate faster than a song which is 300th number in our overall stuff, but is not there on Carvaan. For me, I'm a big believer, anything I can't explain, I'll keep it as a high correlation because causal effect relationship has not been established yet. We also do a lot of focus group discussions with the existing Carvaan customers. There was a parallel insight that came from there, where people said when they were listening to Carvaan, they never used their earphones or AirPods. It was always put on the speaker mode. Which meant there was a lot of passive listening being done by the younger members of the family. Now there's a high quality music. It's like when I was exposed to Simon and Garfunkel for the very first time, I was like blown away. Well, it belonged to my dad's era. That what quality music and what amazing quality lyrics. I am still a big fan of Simon and Garfunkel and I have introduced my son to that. Something similar has happening right now with Carvaan doing the same job on the Hindi music. There's some great songs written by Anand Bakshi Saab, Shalendra, which when are heard by this generation, they were never exposed to it, they also start developing a liking towards it. And consumption of that starts going up higher on the digital platforms. So Carvaan is doubling up as a huge marketing tool also for us.
Right.
At the same time, what we are doing now is, of all the greater catalog songs that we people have, we are now going to the young age creators and saying if you want to do cover versions of it, a lo-fi version of it or a trap mix version of it, we are opening up a library in front of them. The only condition is the new IP which is created gets transferred back across to Saregama. We put it up on various digital platforms. If anything works, whatever revenue we make from it, 10% of that is shared with the creator who has created that version. What it's doing is introducing a lot of the newer age songs in the lo-fi mix to a younger generation. Now, there's a very famous song, Kaun Disa Mein. Now, Kaun Disa Mein is Nadiya Ka Paar Ka song, which is a 70s ki movie. In a way, it had been forgotten, right? It was not sitting out there in the top 500 songs of ours. A lo-fi version was created of it. It just took off. Suddenly, because of that, not only the lo-fi is doing very, very well, the original also started doing very, very well. So many such experiments are being done constantly to ensure that the catalog is kept alive while we keep on focusing on the newer content.
Right. I just want to take a bit of a turn and talk about the talent in the industry. So the way, and what I want to understand is if you guys have ever thought about being a sort of, the way Universal would also, so like an artist would sign up with Universal and therefore he or she is, exclusive to that music group. So would have you guys considered that sort of business model? And yeah,
we announced that last year. We have already gone out there and signed a few artists. We have not made an announcement of the names yet. Philosophically, we are very different from what our competitors are doing. We are identifying raw talent and then building those people up, rather than signing up established people in the industry. We believe, one, I think we owe it to the industry. Second, we are in a better position to mold an absolute newcomer and give rise to some great talent, rather than work with the established people. With established people, we do song by song deal or do a multi-song deal like we have done with the number one singer Arijit Singh. But we have not signed him as an artist. Right? There's very little value I can add to Arijit's life today. What will I do by signing him as an artist? He is already the number one artist of the country. But with the younger talent, we believe we can add value to their life and try to make them big. You will be hearing announcements of the names very, very soon.
Okay. And I also want to get a sense of what your company does in the live event space. Everyone talks about how the younger generations are now more concerned with experiences rather than goods. So what is Saregama doing to enhance that experience for consumers in India?
Live we people are getting into for two reasons. One, the reason that you explained, that there is a growing market for live now. One, the younger people want those experiences. Second, for an average middle or upper middle class, what are the sources of entertainment in this country? You go to a mall, right, and you take your kids to the food court. You watch a movie here and there. What else do you do as a family apart from going to somebody else's home?
Yeah.
We don't have weekend getaways here. We don't have parks in the heart of the city right now that you're saying that you're going there and lying there. What do we do?
Yeah.
And as the disposable incomes are going up, we know there's a demand for these kind of experiences. Second, we are seeing government very constructively pushing on infrastructure. So bit by bit, whether it's a flyovers or the roads or some of the theatrical areas, right, arenas, we are realizing there is a push behind that. As that happens, we believe there will be greater opportunity for a market to develop around live events. For us, it's also important from a music part of the business, because live gives us a great opportunity to build relationships with the bigger talent in the market. Because now our talent starts thinking that they can not only sing for us, but we can also manage their live business. It also gives me an opportunity that the artists that I'm signing up, I can put them out as part of the live business that we are handling. So it's a symbiotic relationship that we people are building between the various verticals of the company.
Right. And is part of that becoming a platform where people, like for example, if there's a concert, would it be possible for me to book tickets to that concert through you guys?
At this juncture, no.
Yeah.
Eventually, there's an area we find very, very interesting. Whether we do it ourselves, whether we do it in partnership with somebody else, we believe we can bring about a change in the experience. We recently did Disco Dancer in Mumbai, and I think one of the key feedback we got from everybody was that they'd never seen a show like that. We changed the entire format of what a Broadway-like play should be. We made it more a family affair. We had people dancing in the alleys. We made it very clear mobile phones are allowed all throughout. You want to shoot live stuff, please do it. Something which is never allowed. Because in other places, it's a more formal affair. We allowed alcohol inside, we allowed food inside. Because in our mind, what we were giving is giving you a genuine party-like experience that you can have with your family while a live play is going on. Our artists were actually coming down from the stage, interacting with people, which never happens in proper plays. So we are saying that experience that we want to give to our people right now has to be very, very different, which may also mean that from the time you're booking that experience, can I give you a differentiated feel?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
that may happen.
And I think it's so good that companies like yours are actively participating in this. Because I remember last year, in London, I went for a Coldplay concert, and I was just seeing the tour dates and all over the world. And they go to Western Europe, America, that's fine. But they go to even South America. And I was thinking, if they're okay going to Argentina or Peru or something like that, why are they not coming to India? Why is it that I have to fly halfway around the world to watch, a top...
You can watch Diljit Dosanjh here.
Right.
He's bigger. He's
no,
bigger
but my, right. No, 100%. But my question is that a top global artist like that, why is it that they are not... I mean, I know they do come. Even Michael Jackson came 25 years back. But why is it that so far they've been reticent to come? Is it a technical, structural issue?
So again, I'm not an expert right now on saying why international artists don't come. My speculation will be, one, remember, all said and done, we study in English, at least the English medium students. We work using English as a language, but the moment it comes to entertainment consumption, majority of the country still prefer consuming content in their own language. That's why companies like ours are very, very clear. Our focus is going to be 18 of the Indian languages than anything else. So that has a play. Second, infrastructure was the problem in our country. I think things are improving. Even the process of taking licenses from various authorities is improving. I believe in the days to come, you will have a lot of successful Indian artist shows as well as international artists coming to India. I think we're on the right track.
Does the live events business, I know it's still in many ways it's somewhat nascent compared to other businesses, and it'll evolve over time. But do you see yourselves as going beyond just music and say something like theatrical? And for example, a sports event, is that something? No.
We are very, very clear. We are a music-based company, so we are getting into live to build properties around music. Do we see us doing right now non-music content? Not in the immediate future.
Right. So Vikram, you've been part of Saregama now, I think, 8.5 years or roughly that period. And the company's grown tremendously in that time. The share price reflects all the incredible things that have happened. I want to get your sense of where you see Saregama going in the years to come. We've spoken a lot about the different verticals and how each of them is going to evolve. But what do you see as Saregama's role in the industry as a whole? And why do you think it's important that companies like Saregama, I mean, and in what way does Saregama drive the industry forward?
I consider Saregama to be a unique company in the media entertainment sector. I don't have any other company which has got such a progressive board with somebody like Sanjeev Goenka as the chairman and a professional management running day-to-day operations, and both of them completely working in sync. There is no overlap. Sanjeev and Avarna, who is a vice chairperson, they play a very, very active role at the board level right now to give us direction, but they don't get involved on the day-to-day part. We work within our boundaries here, but there is a complete freedom given to the professional management team. The fiduciary responsibility that the team out here takes, I think is taken very, very seriously in our system, where everybody's KRAs and everybody's bonuses are now attached straight away right now to how a top line and the bottom line is functioning. We genuinely believe, somebody asked me right now, what are you doing? Are you guys in the world of entertainment? I don't think we're in the world of entertainment. We're in the business of entertainment. And we look at everything with that lens. That if you are doing something, you may fail. But when you are starting in that journey, you should have a clear-cut understanding that what you are doing should be value accretive to the investors who are putting money out there in your company. And that's a guiding principle we have for everything. Right. And we believe because of that, we stand apart.
Right. So Vikram, just one last question. What about your work excites you? Why do you enjoy coming in every day?
Every 6 months or so, I take an induction program for all the newcomers. I took the last one this morning, and my HR hates it. I end every time this address happens. My last statement to them is 3 days in a row. When you're putting on makeup or doing your shave, at that time before coming to the office, you start thinking, "Kahan yaar, boring hai." Please put in your papers that day. Because I'm a believer right now, there's only one life. I don't believe in reincarnation. I believe in a single life. This is the only life we have. Majority of our life goes out there in this, for people like us right now, in this concept called office. Unless you're enjoying those 8, 10, 12 hours that you put in every day, you're just wasting your life. So for me, that's a very strong reason why I'm still here. I thoroughly enjoy what I do. Very rarely in a professional's life, you get an opportunity where you can behave like an entrepreneur because your board is backing you completely, while you still have a security of getting a salary at the end of the month. I think it's a great place. It's a great place where most of the people and you roam around in my office and you will get that vibe. People really enjoy what the hell they are doing. We come with newer ideas. Failure is something which is genuinely appreciated. It's not just a vocal part. But lack of initiative is really looked down upon and people are shown the door. And that is giving rise to a culture where people are always happy to come out with ideas and try to implement them. Right. And I enjoy that a lot.
Well, great. Vikram, thank you so much for taking the time. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
Entirely my pleasure.